Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson. And of course, we've been watching a lot of changes within our, now called the Department of War. It was called the Defense Department. I'm very honored today to have back with us Dr. Josh McConkey. He's a candidate for Lieutenant Governor there in North Carolina. He's also an Air Force colonel and combat physician, author of an award-winning book called Be the Weight Behind the Spear. Colonel McConkey's military service includes providing critical medical support in both wartime and peacetime operations with over 340 hours of flight surgeon time, 90 combat hours, and a rotary wing medical evacuation and air assault missions there in the Middle East. He is a Air Medal and Army Commendation Medal recipient for his exemplary service during Operation Iraq Freedom. So what an honor to have back with him. The website is weightbehindthespear.com, and there's the picture of the landing page. Dr. McConkey, good to see you again, friend. How are you?
I'm doing very good. Good morning.
Thanks for your time. Boy, that's a lot there. By the way, how's the campaign going?
Going very well. We've got a very strong message. We spoke at Salt and Light 2 weekends ago, and we've got a lot of support here in North Carolina.
Good. When is your election?
We have a long runway for this one. It's 2028.
Okay. Well, good for you. Let's stay connected. Get you across the line. Well, let's get the gear down and get you landed. How's that?
Yeah, thank you.
Go. Oh, so much going on. Well, last week was quite a meeting when the Secretary of War called everybody together. He spoke for quite some time, and then the President came out. What did you think of that meeting?
You know, as a military commander, I just finished a command tour at Andrews Air Force Base. I hold my people to standards. And when you don't see senior leadership being held to those same standards, it really disrupts what we do as a military. So that was literally his come to Jesus moment. For those senior leaders, they need to be held to the same standards as everyone else. And to have that top cover from like the actual Secretary of War and the President, I was very happy to hear that.
So how bad is it, or how bad was it?
You know, over the past really 5-6 years, those standards had really slid. A lot of the woke DEI policies had played a part in that. But very simply, when you look at individuals and you look at the combat requirements, so it doesn't matter like what sex you are, where you're from. If you can pick up a 200-pound guy and carry him from the front line to a battalion aid station, then good for you. It doesn't matter like who you are, where you're from. You have to meet that standard or people die. I carried body bags in Iraq. When you talk about our ability to deliver lethality, that is our mission in the military. It's a terrible mission at times. You know, it's very difficult, and I have a strong faith in things that have brought me through that. But if you can't meet the very basic standards, that really takes away the entire mission of our military.
How do you think, if I can use the term, the brass received that, being there as long as they have, taking it from a junior compared to their service time?
You know, the people that meet the standards, who have served in combat and know what we're actually about, our real mission, are extremely happy. The woke individuals and the people that can't meet the standards are probably not very happy right now. And he showed them the door, and thank you for their service.
Is that happening?
I know he has dismissed, there was a senior Navy official in the last couple of days. And, I'm certainly not privy to those level of personnel moves, but I know there will definitely be some changes, and they're very welcomed.
So prior to the speech, how would you describe the morale in the military?
Getting much, much better. So you saw a huge difference in our recruiting statistics, literally within weeks of Trump being elected. So really November and December of 2024, we exceeded all of the different quotas that we met for Air Force, Army, Navy, and the Marines. We're getting back to a lethal fighting force instead of having, as a military commander, when you sit down and you make me do 20, 30% of my time with things that don't really meet our mission set, we're there to deliver lethality. And on the medical side, I want to make sure those individuals have the best medical care possible. And so I ran an en route patient staging system. We do critical care air transport as well. And when those men and women put themselves in harm, they want to know that they've got the best military and medical resources to take care of them. So when you ask us to do things that aren't a part of that mission, you're wasting our time. You're deteriorating our ability to, carry out that mission. And the morale is very good now. And I think with these types of announcements, it's only going to get better.
So those who are kind of caught in the middle, if I can put it that way, those who are in the military, in the transitioning process, et cetera, are they automatically expelled?
So are you referencing some of the trans
Yes,
individuals that
right.
are?
Yes.
So that right there, if you look at it just from a medical standpoint, a lot of people don't realize that these medications, when you're taking hormones, hormone replacement, those are specialty medications and they have to be refrigerated. So literally, when you put yourself on that type of medication, there's a lot of areas of the world. You think about the desert, not a lot of refrigeration out there. So by putting yourself on those medications and going through that transition, you have already made yourself non-deployable. And so you're not there to partake the mission that you're training to do. So if you look just from a medical standpoint, these are all disqualifying. You can't serve being on these medications. This is just common sense.
Okay. In the meantime, as you well know, the department was changed from the Department of Defense to Department of War. Obviously, that sent a huge message. What's your take?
So when you look at our adversaries, China and Russia, the previous 4 years under the Biden administration, they're just laughing at us. They see the ridiculousness that we were going through, the different woke ideologies and the focus and the quotas. It was very bizarre. As a military member, I follow I uphold the Constitution and I follow orders. I disagreed a lot with the Biden administration, but I follow orders and I'm a professional. This is the profession of arms. We're finally back to delivering lethality and focusing on that mission set. Boy, I'm so happy with where we're heading.
Doctor, when the Secretary of War, Secretary Hagstaff, was giving a speech, he used a term in there that we're not familiar with. I'm sure you are. It's called, and he went on to say, we don't have a rear area. What is that term?
So rear area, you've got your support functions. So everyone is very familiar with the combat forces. Those are the jet aircraft, the Marine Expeditionary Units, artillery and infantry. Well, there's a huge support system behind that. When I talk about being the weight behind the spear of our war fighters, it's our medical, it's logistics, it's, just beans and bullets. Those cooks. I'll tell you some stories from Iraq. So one of the biggest morale builders for us in Iraq was our cook. I don't know where he found them, but every Tuesday or Wednesday night, I can't remember what night of the week, he found a way to get a steak night out there that just helped build morale. And those support, that's the rear. When you talk about those rear elements, that's what they're talking about.
The other emphasis of the speech was physical readiness. This is really interesting. I think we assumed everybody was physically fit. What happened?
Boy, that is a requirement that should have been the standard, but that had not been the standard. Now, at the lower levels, at my squadron level, I prided my squadron on holding them to those standards, and we met those standards. I did have to separate 3 individuals for not meeting fitness standards. And when you hold your people accountable, and then you don't see senior leadership, you see general officers that clearly are not meeting those standards, what they were doing, there's a lot of games that they play. So being a medical officer, being a physician over 23 years in the military, they would go to a junior medical officer and kind of lean on them a little bit. Oh, my knee pain. I don't think I can take the fitness test. I need a waiver. I need a profile. Well, your knee pain is because you're 50 pounds overweight. Okay. And if you can't meet those standards, how could you possibly expect the people underneath you to respect you? And it just erodes the faith in our system and in our military. And so when the standard that you ignore now becomes the new standard. And It had eroded very slowly over the past several years. He's just putting us right back where we need to be, and that puts China and Russia on notice.
Are we war ready?
We're definitely, I can tell you that if something happens, we are ready to do whatever this country asks us to do. Could it be better? Yes. But when you look at that mission, when they took out that nuclear facility in Iran,
Hmm.
no one else on planet Earth can execute that mission at that level. And so that's peace through strength. We're getting better and we have some strides to make, but I can guarantee you if we're called upon to do something, we will get it done.
How's the inventory of our armament?
We haven't. There's been some reductions in our artillery and in some weapon systems. Just there's been a lot of support to Ukraine and in Israel. Those are probably big questions for the Joint Chiefs of Staff. They don't really trickle down too far to me, but we have what we need. In the immediate term, I think long term, we would have to get much much more because we have sent a lot overseas, but we have what we need at the moment.
Is the military returning to a faith-friendly status?
It always has been. You will not find atheists in foxholes. That's a very common term.
Hmm.
My time in Iraq, I would not have survived without my faith. My chaplain, Jim Higgins, just an amazing individual. He was able to come to my assumption of command speech that I gave in 2022 when I became a commander, and it meant a lot to me. Just him, the chaplain's assistant, Mike Swintek, if you're out there, just some wonderful individuals. Faith has always been a critical component of our readiness. That spiritual readiness is just as important as the physical side, because without either, you won't survive.
I do want to get to your book, and I will that after the break, but a couple more thoughts here. So we're ready. We're changing the attitude. We changed the name. We're getting better fit. I mean, everything that has made the military very attractive. By the way, after that bombing in Iran, I understand the next week is when enlistment kind of skyrocketed in America, right?
That's why people join the military. You want to protect your nation. When you're called upon, you see the movies, right? Like Full Metal Jacket, like Top Gun.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of those have been used for recruiting in the past, but then you see the real life mission and the real life implications on, just taking away Iran's nuclear capability. I mean, those are world changing events. You're saving a lot of lives,
Mm-hmm.
probably prevented World War III. People want to be a part of that. That's why you join the military. You don't join the military to get woke and do all the crazy things that they were doing under the Biden administration.
By the way,
You join the military to protect this nation.
they don't have the woke and DEI in other militaries in other countries.
You will not find that in China or Russia's military.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Well, two more quick questions. In your opinion, are we the top military force in the world?
There is no doubt about that. Just that Iran mission alone, everyone on planet Earth knows that we're the only country on Earth that can do that mission. And again, that's peace through strength.
And it's been talked about lately about some of the problems that we have within our borders that have been a result of open borders and things like that, that we may have a significant threat within our own borders. Is that a concern to you?
It is a concern, and certainly you can't talk about anything classified, but there were a large number of individuals that were on known terror watch lists that entered our country illegally and are still in the country. They try to keep tabs on as many as they can, but there are individuals in this country that should not be here, and they certainly wish us ill will. And I know the Trump administration is working very, very hard on that. But that really emphasizes why it's so important to have a secured border. If you don't know who's coming into your country, you do not have national security. Again, that's very common sense.
All right, let me take a quick break. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, check out the Colonel's book called The Weight Behind the Spear. There's a picture of the cover of the book on the screen by Dr. Josh McConkey, and he does have a website, weightbehindthespear.com, and there's a picture of that landing page. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Welcome back, and very timely, and yet always an honor to have with us Dr. Josh McConkey. He's also a colonel there in the military, in the Air Force, colonel, and physician. He's written a book called The Weight Behind the Spear. There is the picture of the cover of the book, and it's quite comprehensive. And you can go to his website, weightbehindthespear.com. And going through your book, Dr. McConkey, this is very interesting because not only talking about national security and military readiness, but you're talking about next generation. What led you to write this book?
So, for me, as an emergency physician, what I'd seen over the last several years, when you take an entire generation and you shut them down from their schools, from their faith, from their communities, it has fueled a mental health crisis. And so I see a lot of anxiety, depression, and unfortunately, a lot of suicides. And as a military commander, those same young individuals, I'm trying to help develop their leadership skills and their resiliency. And you can clearly see how lacking that is. So those two things right there just had me so concerned that I decided to write the book and try to get that message out there. We have a lot of work to do. We need this next generation to be successful.
So what do you mean by the weight behind the spear? Define it.
Yeah, the best resource that we have in this country, it's our people. It's teachers, coaches, volunteers, families, our faith. That is what sets us apart from the rest of the world. And when you work with special operations, I've been very fortunate. So I was medical director for combat search and rescue. And for those individuals, you realize that what gives them the amazing confidence to do what they do, it's the weight behind that tip of their spear. It's those teachers and coaches and volunteers. And so this book is my call to action to get people involved in their community to do just that. This is my prescription to fix that problem.
All right, for those who need to know, it's weightbehindthespear.com is the website, but that's also the title of the book, so check it out. Colonel, I'm really still struggling with the assassination of Charlie Kirk in so many ways. And even over the weekend, I was reading more about it, and I'm just having a hard time processing it. But it has given birth to something that we need, and it may have been a silent movement that we didn't know about of young people being pulled into, they're calling it the silent morality. They have been awoken to this country. And there is a huge movement now of young people seeking truth. They're going to church. They're checking out everything that has been lied to them. And they seem to be going in another direction, a huge move of young men returning to faith. And now that his wife has taken over, her short leadership has inspired a lot of young women to return to faith. I guess my question is, how did you handle it, and what do you think of the post-reality of it?
So it was such a difficult event. I was literally on my way to school to pick up my children when I heard the news. And when I still think about it, my heart sinks. I was very fortunate. I was at the memorial 2 Sundays ago. I was actually on stage with Lee Greenwood as Erica Kirk was giving her speech. And when she forgave the killer, I looked at Lee, he looked at me, our jaws dropped. There wasn't a dry eye in that entire stadium of 100,000 people. And that was the most powerful event I've ever been a part of. And if you take a positive away from that just horrible tragedy, it has brought together people. It has shown them the light. It is that shining beacon of light for the entire world. There were 100 million people watching that event live all around the world. And just showing that like what you do matters every day. People matter. Charlie Kirk knew that. He put himself in very dangerous environments, went out there and would talk with anybody, anytime, to keep that open dialogue and that civil discourse, and bringing people to faith, bringing this whole next generation back into the fold after them being isolated during COVID. It's a very positive thing. And, it's still such a difficult tragedy to deal with. But if this is the positive that comes from that, that sacrifice was worth it. And Charlie knew that.
Yeah, I'm still struggling. But let me ask you this. Do you think it has cracked the political barriers some of the walls that we've created within our culture?
Yes, 100%. When you see individuals, so everyone that was kind of just on the edge, you're just talking about reasonable people. The left has so much hatred, and you feel like there's so much evil there. But this event has shown everyone the light. When you see the events and how things unfold for when the left, or they riot, they burn things down, they're murdering people. When we had that horrific event, we gathered together with faith and we prayed, and people see that. So when you see this younger generation that has really been just so isolated, when they see that, the power of that, her literally forgiving the killer, that just that moves them, and they see the truth. And once they see that truth and they come back into the fold, spiritually with their communities, getting involved politically, it's I think you're seeing a huge groundswell right here in North Carolina. We've had a massive increase in Republican voter registration. We are now outpacing the Democrats by a very wide margin. And I think it's definitely moving the needle and bringing people back to faith. It's a very positive thing.
The other part of that, if you were on stage at that moment, there was parts of that event that were just out. They were stunning. And when our leaders got up, Department of Intelligence, Secretary of State got up and literally gave the plan of salvation. These weren't ministers. These weren't heads of ministries or pastors. These were members of our government getting up and openly declaring their faith and the truth of the gospel. It had to be a stunning moment if you were standing on stage.
It was very heartwarming. It was very emotional. And those are the principles that this country is built on. That's literally what we are about. And just being, again, at that event, it was the most powerful event I've ever been a part of. And just to see that literally on stage, getting to watch all those individuals give their speeches, it was amazing.
I mean, we could see a revival of doing good.
We're moving in that direction, and this younger generation is now a part of that. And that's our future. So even the long-term effects of this are going to be felt for decades.
Colonel, in your book, you make the case of business leaders to see their work as part of national mission. What do you mean by that?
So business leaders, all of these individuals, high school, college, they're coming to you looking for jobs. And so the earlier you get involved and help teach them those basic skills of ownership and accountability, don't wait until they get to you. If you're already way behind the eight ball when they're coming looking for work, if you get involved early and you coach in your community, like coach t-ball or soccer, or you volunteer in a church or a school, or even take your family to an animal shelter, and these animals become emotional support animals for someone. This is your problem because they're coming to you looking for jobs. And the sooner we get involved, the better it is for everyone. So business owners, community leaders have a very important part to play.
Again, one of the great takeaways from the book called The Weight Behind the Spear. There's a picture of the cover of the book by Dr. Josh McConkey there. And that's also the website, weightbehindthespear.com. One last question, Doctor, and that is, it's really great to see the military get revamped, if I can put it that way, at least called back to mission. It's also very encouraging to see so many people see this as an opportunity, and the enlistment and the volunteer enlistment is just going way up, which is wonderful. But on the flip side of this, the Veterans Administration still struggles in maintaining and helping people. Do you see some kind of a revolution there and a cleanup there as well?
Well, I know that's a very large purpose of the Trump administration. I served at the VA hospital in Durham for several years, working with our veterans right there in the emergency department when I was at Duke University. And, not all VAs are equal. Some are much better than others. We have a wonderful VA healthcare system here in North Carolina. But across the nation, there are huge focuses, and I know that's a big part. The Trump administration is working on that.
So you expect some improvements there?
Yeah, there's a lot of improvements that can be made. Anytime you've got government intervention in healthcare, the bureaucracy, remember the waiting list scandal that they had where, they could only be on a waiting list for so long. The purpose was to get them the healthcare quickly, but they just lied. They just put them on different lists and shoved it in a desk and said they were off the waiting list. Those types of bizarre things that were happening under the Biden administration. But, we're making great strides there. It can always be better, but I'm very proud to have been a part of that VA healthcare system, and I get care there myself as a veteran.
What about vouchers for veterans?
That's something that's being looked at. I don't have any insight on that in my current position. I do a lot of national security and emergency management right now, but I know that's something that is being discussed.
Right. Good to see you again. Thank you. Let's stay connected. Very interested in your race. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, waitbehindthespear.com is the website. You can probably get this online as well. There's a picture of the landing page and a picture of the cover of the book by Dr. Josh McConkey, and there it is right there. Thank you, Doctor. Good to see you. God bless you, my friend.
Absolutely. Thank you. And you can go to strongernc.com if you want to join our team. So thank you.
Say that again. Stronger what?
strongernc.com.
Okay. Stronger NC. Oh, for the campaign. Got it.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, sir. All right. See you later.